Happy Monday night. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. We are here, as promised, for your WWE Raw review for June 24th, 2024. And we were hoping to get a lot of, or maybe not a lot of, but some answers about what the Wyatt Six's motivations might be, what their next target is, what their next plan of attack is, and if we would even see them tonight, and if we did, what the explanation would be, I should say, for the mass murder that we all witnessed last week, including Chad Gable being shot in the head and killed, but somehow was medically cleared to compete tonight. Watching online tonight, social media during Monday Night Raw, a lot of mixed reviews so far for the Wyatt family. A lot of people last week felt like they had to move forward in a big way based on the big way they appeared on the scene last week. But really, tonight, we had some interesting things that we saw, including the absence of Pat McAfee in Indianapolis, no less, which was kind of interesting. And the Wyatt Six, or I guess Nikki Cross or Sister Abigail, that character, delivered a VHS tape package to Michael Cole, which they played later on in the show, which basically showed Uncle Howdy interviewing Bo Dallas. And they acknowledged and brought up Bray Wyatt's death. And we had kind of, prior to this group debuting, been speculating that that might be what's fueling this group and this faction's motivation, because if they're going to have some faction that's terrorizing people, I was kind of already thinking that probably what they're doing is, Bo Dallas is traumatized by his brother's death, and he's manifesting this faction in a way to cope with that or whatever. And that might be kind of what they're doing based on the interview that we saw on that VHS tape. I think Michael Cole was looking for a VCR machine. Or no, what did he call it? A VHS machine. Instead of, he was looking for a VHS tape machine. But they did find one, and they showed us that. So we'll kind of talk about that tonight. And I'm curious what you guys thought of what we saw from the Wyatt Six tonight. We didn't get a whole lot revealed, just a little bit in the ring. And then, of course, the video that they showed. One thing I expressed my concern about in weeks prior is that once this thing gets rolling, don't drag it on with the pace that Bray Wyatt drug a lot of his stuff on, because that's when the fans lose interest. So at least based on what we saw tonight anyway, I personally think that we don't really have a whole lot of answers yet about the Wyatt Six. We kind of are getting an idea for their vibe and what's really motivating Bo Dallas's character to do what he's doing, but not really what the ambitions of the faction are. Are they here to win championships in a wrestling promotion, or are they here to terrorize? Are they here to tribute Bray Wyatt? I have a feeling that when this whole thing gets moving, it's possible that we could see the Wyatt Six start out evil and then finish as good, if they go down this really crazy road and, people, instead of, being scared of them, maybe want to try to help them. I don't know. I don't even know where. We're 2 weeks into this here, and it's still a little bit confusing, but they did drop some hints tonight when Chad Gable arrived. He was it looked like he was bothered by the bright lights, and I was like, oh my God, is this like Little Monsters where you come back from the under the bed underworld and like the lights are too bright? Filmed in my old hometown, by the way. And he was kind of doing that, didn't want to really talk to anybody, but then when he was out there for his match, he was all fine. But then the Wyatt Six came out after his match. So the fact that they're still tying in Chad Gable to this is a little bit interesting. Also, when I think it was backstage when Gable was arriving and walking into the building, he passed by a production truck with Alexa Bliss on it. Might be another Easter egg. And then, of course, them delivered Pat McAfee being missing. They've been messing with his podcast this week a couple of times. And then he just flat out wasn't on the show tonight. I thought we might see him turned back up or kidnapped or whatever, but he wasn't there at all. Miz filled in for about half the show, and then at the final hour, Michael Cole was by himself. So that was kind of weird. So basically everything that they kind of gave us tonight didn't really give us any answers, and we don't really know what exactly they're going to do once they're moving forward with whatever plan that is. Right now, I feel like they're trying to let us know what the motivations are of Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy, who, assumingly is the leader of this faction. And I'm also wondering that once they get moving, like they're in the ring having matches and stuff, is WWE going to tell us or acknowledge to us? We already know this, but is WWE going to acknowledge that we are familiar with the wrestlers in this group? We've seen Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis and Eric Rowan and Nikki Cross before. Or are they going to try to pass these people off as completely different characters? I have a feeling, for transparency, WWE is going to want to acknowledge the pasts of everybody here. Maybe telling individual stories how they fell into this group. Rowan, we already know, because he was with the Wyatt families. He was with the Wyatt family from the beginning. And, of course, Bo Dallas, who is Bray Wyatt's brother. But what about the rest of them? They were involved or rumored to be involved when Wyatt was still alive, so maybe that's the tie-in. I'm not really sure how they're going to present that to us, the audience, on TV. It's really hard as someone who covers wrestling to talk about spooky Friday the 13th supernatural stuff. I don't really know how to do it. We've had some practice over the years with Kane and The Undertaker and lots of other outfits, but nothing that Bray Wyatt or anything that in Bray Wyatt's universe that he did or is doing now we've ever seen before. A lot of that is very unique and very different, and you don't a lot of times know really where it's going, and that is what I think is for the best, at least right now. I feel like the Wyatt Six is going to be a big part of TV, so they're going to be involved in big stories. I have a feeling at some point, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, somewhere, they're going to interrupt a title match. And we're going to talk about a lot tonight, but one person that's kind of sort of on my radar is Seth Rollins. And we're going to talk a lot about Rollins and Priest because they dropped a huge stipulation for their Money in the Bank match tonight. And one of my big questions that I've had ever since last week when Rollins came back, I said, if he does not beat Priest for the title at Money in the Bank, what does he do at SummerSlam? And I thought maybe he could be added to the match, make it a triple threat, so Rollins' presence could add some spice to Gunther and Priest. Because right now, Gunther and Priest and Cody and Solo is not looking that great unless we have some major surprises happening. Gunther be winning the title, and I think if Cody and Solo is the plan for SummerSlam, that has to be the return of Roman Reigns. Otherwise, why the fuck would you do that match at SummerSlam? So Rollins has kind of been on my mind. I'm like, okay, so if he falls short against Damian Priest, Priest retains the title, who does Seth work with at SummerSlam? And I thought maybe the Wyatts could target him. I mean, because I just don't know what else he's going to do unless they really plan on slow burning the Wyatt Six and they're not targeting anybody individually per se, but more like tormenting everybody, and of course Chad Gable is still a big part of this as well. So there's lots of kind of uncertainty, but Seth Rollins is one now that we heard about this stipulation tonight. The stipulation is if he doesn't win the title, he can no longer challenge for the world title again. And I think that's also good because I've been saying for months, since before WrestleMania that I want next year's WrestleMania WWE Universal title match or Undisputed title match to be Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. And if Seth Rollins can no longer challenge for the World Heavyweight title for the rest of this year, then you send him into the Royal Rumble. He wins that and challenges Cody, and boom, there you go. Cody puts him over and gives him that thank you for all of the work he did for Cody this year at WrestleMania and 2 years ago, putting him over at 3 pay-per-views in a row. I think Cody owes Rollins that match and victory. So this could set that in motion, but if Rollins cannot challenge for the world title after Money in the Bank, what the hell is he going to do for the rest of the year? Maybe battling the Wyatt Six. Just an idea, just a thought, something to chew on before we get going here. By the way, thanks again for being here tonight. Welcome, hello. I'm going to say hello to the chat and all of that good stuff. And then we'll get rolling with our Raw review tonight. Third night in a row streaming for us. I want to thank everybody who was here on Saturday night for a really fun Saturday night's Greg event. We had a good audience. We had a lot of fun. We unpacked about 3 hours of wrestling news and results and speculation and rumors and pay-per-view cards and all that stuff we covered on Saturday night. Last night we were here for a really fun King of the Ring 2000 review, and of course now we are here for our Raw review for tonight. I was looking forward to the show because I wanted to see the follow-up to what happened last week with the Wyatt Six, and I'm curious if you guys were satisfied, intrigued, or let down by what you saw tonight. Let me know in the chat. Let me know what you thought of the show in general tonight on this hot, hot summer night. And as somebody did point out in the chat, if we have time later and you guys are up for it, we will talk about Chris Benoit, as today is the anniversary of that terrible tragedy, now 17 years. And I remember that day well. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but we're going to break down Raw tonight, and we're also going to talk about this big Indianapolis deal, because WWE was in Indianapolis tonight for Raw, but earlier on in the day, it was announced that rumor that we had already heard about WWE in Indianapolis being close to striking a deal to land a Rumble, SummerSlam, and future WrestleMania in the city. That deal is now done, and we have some info on that we will start with here. But before we do that, let me cruise over here to the chat and say hello to everybody who is here, like some channel members. I see 7th Season. I see my boy Zane G, Max Pokebra, OG JJ Leg, Red Raven Rucker, Zach Palgett, really solid Raw, Joshua Aparicio. They should have gotten Booker T to commentate Raw. As much as I don't like Michael Cole by himself, I like that better than Booker T being there. I like Booker T, but he's horrendous on commentary, at least in my opinion. Big J's in the house, Nick Steele, and Mike Witt. Yeah, Mike Witt, you're the one that mentioned the 17 years for Benoit. We will be probably talking about that later, and he was on the King of the Ring that we watched last night. We talked a little bit about him. Stone Cold 10X is in here. So is Nick Musser and the Juliet. Isaac is here. So is Victor Colon, Michael Cuomo. Right on. That pretty much does it for the channel members, but we also have Mr. Sexy CEO. We got Roman Stone, Harry Rice, Ronnie Matthews, El Magnifico. Who else is here? We have Daniel Barry Sports, Stephen Harris, Andy Linnell, Ben Espinoza, Big Frank, big Frank. You liked the Uncle Howdy and Bo Dallas interview. I did too, and the first thing that caught my ear when Uncle Howdy said, "How have you been since the loss?" And I'm like, okay, it's going to be like that. Bo Dallas's character, I guess, is really struggling with the loss of his brother, and obviously it's affecting him to an extreme degree. And that, I guess, is how they're going to tie this in. And it is a little weird. Some people might be funny about it. I'm all right with it just because I'm 47 now and I've seen it all, and I'm not going to let too much get to me or bother me, or I'm not going to jump on everything for being like offensive or in poor taste or anything like that. I feel like Bray Wyatt, everything that we knew of him to be would be more than accepting of what they're doing. If you were to ask somebody, hey, when you die, do you want a storyline to be done about you? Most wrestlers are probably going to be like, fuck yeah, I do. What an ultimate tribute. But still they are using an actual real life death, which again has been done. They've touched on real life deaths before here and there, mentioning them in promos and whatnot. But being the driving force behind a story, don't know if we've seen that. Imagine Bret Hart going on a rampage, coming back to WWE in the year 2000 and trying to get revenge for his brother. I mean, it'd be fucking nuts. So this is the first time that we've really seen like a real family death. We've seen superstars and wrestlers draw motivation from family members that they've lost. I want to do this for him. I want to do this for her. Whatever. That's very common. But this sounds like Bray Wyatt's death sounds like this is the reason this faction is together. And Bo Dallas's character, Bo Dallas, is struggling with the loss. And this is the result of it, is what we're seeing with the Wyatt family. I'm guessing it's kind of going in that direction, but Uncle Howdy and Bo Dallas, of course, are one in the same. So Uncle Howdy was just interviewing himself on that tape, but I kind of liked it too, to be honest. I'm giving it a chance. I'm not throwing in the towel yet. It's been 2 weeks. Last week was great, but tonight's follow-up was crucial. And the fact that they're kind of, maybe having an underwhelming response to the fact that the roster got murdered. I have a hard time with that. The fact that 15 people lost their lives last week, and then it's business as usual tonight with a couple of extra black shirts and security guards? Come on, man. Where's the riot squad? Where's the police? Where's the FBI? So even though maybe that wasn't really realistic, what about the Wyatt Six is realistic right now? I've been watching wrestling for over 40 years. It's never really made sense. And that's what a lot of people seem to be worried about with this. It's got to make sense. Why? Doesn't always. I mean, I know that sometimes it can be frustrating when something is just so asinine or illogical as wrestling fans. So it's not like we can just say, oh, wrestling's supposed to not make sense. Yeah, we want it to make sense a little. But at the end of the day, you got to remember that it is wrestling and there are no rules. You can be as goofy and wacky as you want. And it does not matter what you do. No matter what you do, if it transpires in a pro wrestling ring or on a pro wrestling show, it is pro wrestling. There is no such thing as, that's not pro wrestling. Orange Cassidy puts in his hands in his pocket. That's not wrestling. Yeah, it is, Sparky. Yeah, it is. Just like Nikki Cross climbing out of the smoke with a fucking weird VHS tape package. That's wrestling too. As weird as it is wrestling. And I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I just really, for the sake of Bray Wyatt's memory, that is my biggest motivator to want to see this thing succeed. If this didn't have the cloud or, the aura of Bray Wyatt's death over it, or this wasn't a tribute to him in any way, and, Bray Wyatt never passed away and he's still a part of this, honestly, I might not care if it works at all. But I really, really want this to, because, for Bray Wyatt's sake, So if he is somewhere in the multiverse looking down, his consciousness out there somewhere is observing what his family is doing, he's happy. That's what I hope is the result of this entire faction. We got Rodrigo here as well. We got Michael Brown, Sonic Plays. Did I get you? I might have already done that. Denny Downbad, Sean Swaby is here as well. We got Green Pea, Always Radio. JL is also in the house. The new one. What's up, Vontae? Good to see you. J. Michael is here. Mount Vernon Kid. Right on. Nate Dogg, Chad Jones, Robert 2005, channel member Titanium Titan. Good to see everybody in here. Do me a favor. Smash Mr. Thumbs Up button. That really, really, really helps the channel and it helps me out. I would appreciate it. Also, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel, and memberships and super chats are both open. I do have a members only video, maybe 2 of them coming to the channel in just a couple of weeks. And along with some SummerSlam content as well. I'm heading on vacation the second week in July, so I will have some videos hitting the channel while I'm gone. So stay tuned, subscribe, and all that jazz. We got a busy week. We will be here this Sunday for Forbidden Door. You will probably see me prior to that for predictions. And I'm working on some other stuff. I'm like balls to the wall on the YouTube right now because I had a vacation coming up. So I got a lot going on. That's why it's important to subscribe, just in case I hit you with some surprises. I threw 2 videos up on my second channel that I recently resurrected. Threw a couple of videos up there yesterday. So you can subscribe to Good Mic Work 2 as well, where I just upload some random clips and wacky stuff. And I can have a little bit more fun over there. So it's all there for your enjoyment and your consumption. Please subscribe, please like, notifications bell, all that good stuff. Anyway, before we get into Raw, let's talk about this WWE Indianapolis news. So Raw tonight was in Indianapolis, and we did hear rumors earlier on in the week. I cannot remember who broke the story, if it was Fightful or if it was somebody else, but there was some reports of this deal that is near finalization between WWE and the city of Indianapolis to bring a Royal Rumble and a SummerSlam and a future WrestleMania all to Lucas Oil Stadium. And today it was announced that that deal is done. Here's what Fightful Select had to say about this today. Oh, it was WrestleVotes last week who did break the story that this was in the works. But here's what Fightful Select had to say about this deal today. Royal Rumble as a possible February... wait a minute. Hold on. Let me just reread this. Okay. So Royal Rumble next year is going to be in Indianapolis. Royal Rumble 2025. I don't have the date, but I believe it's like February 1st, right? It's going to be a February date. First time Royal Rumble's ever been in February. I think Super Bowl had something to do with that. Here's what Fightful Select had to say about that Royal Rumble next year. Royal Rumble as a possible February destination has long been discussed, as was a potential WrestleMania date in May before late April was settled on. We're told that avoiding Super Bowl weekend and NFL playoffs was important into that decision-making. I've always felt that. It doesn't mean that it will remain in February moving forward, but that the Super Bowl calendar could cause that. Now, pause there. I know in other years, in most years, because I usually pay attention to this stuff, WWE Royal Rumble, they try to keep the Royal Rumble away from the playoffs, but more importantly, Championship Sunday. That's where you got the NFC and the AFC title games both happening on the same day. You never see a Royal Rumble falling on that day unless they've done one recently. Usually the Royal Rumble will fall between the Championship Sunday and the Super Bowl. There's like a week gap for media between there and the Super Bowl. That's usually where the Royal Rumble lands, or it'll land maybe earlier in the playoffs where maybe the games aren't as high stakes or something like that. That's the way I've always remembered it. But playoffs and the Super Bowl always play a role in when WWE decides to hold the Royal Rumble. So that's always going to be the case as long as the Royal Rumble is staying put in this time of the year, late January, early February. They're always going to have to deal with that. Fightful Select goes on to say, in addition, WWE's press release announced that a future 2-night SummerSlam would be coming to Indiana. Those we spoke to in WWE said that the Minnesota expansion to 2 nights was the start of that event, likely moving to 2 nights moving forward. We've not been told of Royal Rumble expanding to 2 nights. However, one longtime WWE higher-up told us that it's certainly constructed in a way that would easily work for 2 nights. Yes, it is. Women's Night 1, Men's Night 2. There you go. Some of the positives that WWE sources highlighted to us regarding Indianapolis was the ease of the access in the city. I talked about that. Proximity to other major cities and the indoor stadium. Years ago, Indianapolis had a strong showing for peripheral events around the Super Bowl. So I think we talked about this on Saturday on the podcast when we talked about Indianapolis possibly landing a future WrestleMania or Royal Rumble, and Indianapolis, since WrestleMania has not been there since WrestleMania 8, all the way back in 1992, even though Indianapolis in the state of Indiana is not a destination state or a destination city, nothing to do there, really. It's perfectly located. I mean, that's where the whole fucking country lives there. You know, you slap that right in the middle, and you can have drive-ins now from Detroit, from Cleveland, from Chicago, from Pittsburgh, from D.C., from Kentucky, from New York. Everywhere around there can all kind of converge, and Indianapolis is pretty centrally located. I mean, people from St. Louis can probably make the drive up. I'm trying to think with my geography how far that would be, but it's all relatively drivable. So that is one good thing about having it there, is that it's not like Vegas, where it's just sitting there in the middle of fucking nowhere. You know, you can come in from all different directions. Indianapolis, and that is a very, very American city. So that's a good place to have a WrestleMania. It's been a long time since they've been to Indianapolis, and I think it's long overdue that they went back. And now it's interesting to see too these cities signing multi-event deals to where now WWE, this is something we haven't really seen before, they're starting to sign deals for pay-per-views in advance. Like they knew where SummerSlam 2026 is going to be before SummerSlam 2025. You know, I don't think we know where next year's SummerSlam is going to be, do we? But we know in 2026, it's going to be in Minneapolis, and that's when it starts 2 nights. The Indianapolis deal is going to get a SummerSlam after that. So the earliest Indianapolis can even get the SummerSlam would be 2027, right? Unless they do it, no, they're not going to get it, because they're not going to get 2 big pay-per-views in 1 year. So if Royal Rumble is there in 2025, they're not going to get a Mania or WrestleMania next year. It's going to be just Rumble, and that's it. SummerSlam will probably be 2027. Then you're talking 2029 or 2028, 2029, which is 5 years from now. So now we're looking WrestleMania 46 or 47. I think maybe WrestleMania 46 or 47 will be in Indianapolis. So when you see this deal and that they've signed on to get a SummerSlam and a Mania, we don't really know when those are going to be. So these are way in the future. And I'm curious how those deals work, because if you set a monetary amount, you know, what if the money is greater and the market is different 3 years from now or 5 years from now, 6 years from now by the time you get to that event? So I don't know how these work, or these contracts work, but Indianapolis is now set to have 3 of the big 4 pay-per-views in their city within the next 10 years easily, and that's cool. So look for more cities to start doing that. I think WWE might start conducting their business this way, since they have so many big pay-per-views on the calendar that cities are bidding for. You know, you can now sign these big mega deals with these cities for multiple events, and boy, has the business changed. If 1995, Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and everybody in their circle in WWE holding Monday Night Raw in the Fernwood Coliseum in front of 200 people could see what is going on right now, they would be blown away how much it's changed. So congratulations to Indianapolis. This is pretty great. A lot of people, you know, live in that area. Even if you don't live in Indiana or in Indianapolis, I assume that if you live in Michigan, Ohio, or Illinois, or Kentucky, you're driving in for that bitch, aren't you? Who lives in that area? I would. If I was still living in Motown, if I was still living in Detroit, like when I was a little tiny little cute guy. I couldn't drive back then, but if I could, I would totally make the trip. Absolutely. It would be fun. So you can count me out for Royal Rumble 2025. I'm not going to Indianapolis, but I will be in Vegas next year. So make sure you are there for WrestleMania. And congrats once again to Indianapolis. Mania, JJ Leg says Mania 2026 for Indy. I don't know. See, that's one thing I don't see happening, JJ. That's 3 years in a row. That would be Rumble 25, Mania 26, SummerSlam 27. That's too much, to be honest. That's going to go by really quick, and that's 3 massive shows all in that one stadium, way too close together. I think it's going to be Royal Rumble 2025, and then I think it's going to be SummerSlam 2027, and Mania is after that. I cannot see WrestleMania 43 being in Lucas Oil, but I could be wrong. I could be way wrong. WrestleMania 43 and 2026 in Lucas Oil 1 year after they held a Rumble there feels too close. I feel like these deals are more long-term. I would have to guess Rumble 25, SummerSlam 27, and then WrestleMania in 2029, 5 or 6 years from now. That's my personal guess, but you got to stay tuned for the next 5 or 6 years to find out if I'm right. Atlanta is another one, Roman. I don't know what you mean about, do I mean Atlanta? But Atlanta is another city that I would love to see WrestleMania go to. We've talked about that a lot. The Juliet, shout out to you. Thank you for gifting out a Good Micro Commentaries membership to JL. I did not have my ticker updated today, so I had to throw the super chat totals in there. I forgot to write in there what I wanted to. But thanks again, Juliet, for all of that. And I think now we should start getting into WWE Raw review, don't you think? Right on. Let me give myself a refresh so I can see everybody. Again, thumbs up buttons would be super duper helpful in this situation. All right. There we go. All right. We are back on track. Okay, so let's talk about Monday Night Raw tonight. Monday Night Raw live from Indianapolis, Indiana in the used to be Conseco Fieldhouse or Conseco Fieldhouse. I don't know what the hell the place is called now, but it's where the Indiana Pacers play. First thing we learn right off the bat when Raw goes live is that Pat McAfee is not there. He is missing. Michael Cole said that Pat is, sorry, I'm just centering my camera a little bit. Michael Cole said that Pat McAfee is not there and he doesn't really know why. They did not, I don't think they mentioned, they might have, what went down on McAfee's podcast. I only saw a couple of clips, but I know there was 2 separate occasions where the Wyatt family was messing with him. And the first one, I guess they had some, I don't know, some former Navy SEAL or something on the show or some Army guy, and all that shit started happening. Well, all the crazy conspiracy theory chuds on the fucking internet think that the libs are trying to silence some guy. They had no fucking idea. It was some conspiracy. Oh my God, something weird's going on Pat McAfee. Do you think Biden's trying to hire? I don't know. Something, the crazy shit they do. It was pretty funny watching that all unfold. But Pat had some incidents, I should say, on his podcast this week, and then he just flat out wasn't on the show. So I was expecting like the Wyatt family to drag him out. I keep calling him the Wyatt family, the Wyatt Six, to drag him out all bloody, or to reveal that he's been kidnapped, or maybe we would see him later in the show. But they just kept him off the show altogether. I don't know if the Wyatt family stuff this week on his show was a cover to get him off of Indianapolis, because you'd think he would be there in his, in his city that he played football for. But he wasn't on the show at all, and The Miz filled in. And The Miz did not do bad. I like Pat McAfee a lot. I like him better than The Miz. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about The Miz being on commentary because on account of him, being The Miz. But he wasn't bad. I actually was fine with him tonight. I didn't really take much issue with him at all. I thought Miz did a good job. While Michael Cole and The Miz are welcoming the audience, you can see a figure kind of walking behind the camera. You see that leather jacket. And then Michael Cole's like, okay, there's somebody here who quit last week, so you knew that was Drew. He's out, no music, no nothing. He just gets right in the ring. He's got the microphone. And he shows a recap on the screen of what he did to CM Punk, completely murdering him on SmackDown. And he goes, forget all these people. I want to talk right to you, CM Punk. And he looks in the camera and he says that he hopes he's in pain. I hope you're hurting. I hope you're aching. And I took something from you on Friday as well. And he reveals, it's amazing to me that friendship bracelets are like in style for adult men. Like, what the fuck's going on here? I got nothing against friendship bracelets. I used to make them when I was 12. Why are grown men wearing them now? Do I need to get some? Should I get some? Maybe I should get some. Like Triple H has got a bunch on. Cody's got a bunch. Everybody's just wearing them now. Wait, I don't know. This is just wild to me. It's wild to me that friendship bracelets are in for grown-ass millionaire adults. But they are. And Drew Maybe they're called something different than friendship bracelets, but in my day, they were friendship bracelets. So Drew holds up the little friendship bracelet. It's got Larry and AJ's name on it. So it's his dog and his wife, and he's holding it up. And that's when, he's taunting Punk with that. And then he basically just says, I'm going to be in the Money in the Bank. I'm going to win the Money in the Bank, and I'm going to cash it in that night and get my belt back. Ugh. Y'all showed your hand, WWE. They've been so good about keeping us guessing on some things, and then they're making other things painfully obvious. Drew McIntyre intends to go to Money in the Bank, which he has not qualified for yet, by the way, and win the Money in the Bank, and then cash in that night. He's letting his intentions be known. Drew, brother, do you want your intentions to be known when you're dealing with somebody like CM Punk? Do you want to give out your whole plan? This is Marv and Harry in Home Alone. Remember when they're walking in the backyards, total broad daylight, and Macaulay Culkin opens the window and he hears their whole plan? All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come back around 9 o'clock. And then that little fucker is ready at 9 o'clock to torture these guys in his saw house. So, why would he do that? Why would he say what his plans are? Because by then, Punk might be feeling a little bit better, might want to hop on a plane to Toronto and come and fuck your world up. So to me, this is what it's telling me. Drew McIntyre, it actually would be funny if he actually won the briefcase. See, I'm thinking Punk is going to stop him from winning the briefcase. That's what this whole thing tells me. In the Money in the Bank match, Punk is going to appear. He's going to screw over Drew McIntyre. Drew's not going to win the briefcase, and that's going to enrage Drew. God damn it, you did it again. That's it. I challenge you one-on-one at SummerSlam to a murder match. The first person to die loses. He's going to be that mad. So I feel like Punk screwing him at Money in the Bank is a given. However, I suppose it's possible that McIntyre wins the briefcase and then goes into the Priest and Seth match to do exactly what he was saying he was going to do. And then Punk comes out and stops him from doing that. If you did that, maybe there would be a way to wash out that stipulation that Rollins and the Priest have, too, as well. We mentioned that in the beginning of the show. But I think it would make more sense for Punk just to come out and stop him from winning the briefcase. Once that happens, boom, there you go. There's your SummerSlam match. That's what we've been waiting for. We knew from the moment, probably prior to the moment when Punk swept McIntyre's legs out from under him at WrestleMania, that Punk and McIntyre was your SummerSlam match. I had people arguing with me around Clash at the Castle. We don't know it's a SummerSlam match. I'm like, look, I know they haven't made it official or anything, but come on. That is the SummerSlam match. It's not going to happen anywhere else. It's going to happen at SummerSlam. So now we're one step closer to that being a reality. Drew McIntyre winning the briefcase and cashing in and winning the title would put us right back to where we were prior to Clash at the Castle. If McIntyre was going to be champion and face Gunther, then he would have won at Clash at the Castle. See? So there's no way he's going to win the briefcase and then cash it in at the end of Money in the Bank, win the title, and take the title into SummerSlam to face Gunther. Ain't fucking happening. So it's going to be Punk. Punk's going to fuck him. That's going to do it for Drew. He's going to be on a different level when that happens. And that's when they'll make the SummerSlam match. There's no way it can be a straight up match. It absolutely has to be a stip. Street fight would make a lot of sense. Last man standing. Probably last man standing at this point. I want to fight you until you can't stand anymore, or whatever. I can't do Drew's accent. Something like that, or just a really violent style match. But there can't be like disqualifications and countouts allowed. This has to be like a fight. And what I think you should probably do is blow this off on October 5th, on that rumored day of them resurrecting the Bad Blood pay-per-view and having that Hell in the Cell match. That's where you blow it off. But at SummerSlam, I do feel like they are setting us up for a possible double turn at SummerSlam, especially if Punk, screws Drew again. I don't know what's going to happen, but depends on how it all plays out. But I'm liking it. I think it's a little obvious since McIntyre said, I intend on winning the Money in the Bank and cashing in and whatnot. He's making it a little bit obvious, I think. But at the end of the day, we always knew we were going to get Punk and McIntyre at SummerSlam anyway, so I'm sure this can be relatively fun. So I don't think Drew's going to be winning the briefcase. I think that might be somebody else, and we will talk about that in a minute. While somebody is driving their very, very loud little dick machine past my house. Okay, he's gone. He's gone now. Dog collar match, 7th season. That would be good. Not for the first match, though. Not for the first match. Dog collar's more of a blow-off type of thing. But it would be good. He had a killer one with MJF, right, in AEW? So I'd be down to see Drew and Punk tie up by the neck. That would be great. So then, after that, we get a recap of the Wyatt Six, everything that happened last week with the massacre and whatnot, and then we cut to the backstage garage area where Chad Gable is arriving in an SUV. He shows up. He's immediately surrounded by security. He does not want to talk. He's got a bandage on his head where the bullet hole was, and he seems to be bothered by the bright light, and he's like, just get out of my face, and he just walks straight to his dressing room. While he's walking, he passes the production trucks, which we see Alexa Bliss in her, darker character look on the truck. So that could be a clue, could be an Easter egg, who knows, but they definitely, that was not a coincidence. That's for sure. So we weren't really sure what, Gable's demeanor was going to be. He seems to be a little bit rattled by this, but we weren't going to be sure until he came out for his match. After that, we had the advertised match between Braun Breaker and Ludwig Kaiser. Now, the two of these guys have been feuding with each other, along with Sheamus, who's been getting involved in this stuff. And Breaker, I think last week, Breaker had a match with Sheamus, and Kaiser fucked that up, so you kind of knew where this was going. Prior to the commercial break, though, Braun Breaker does a pretty solid, impressive dive off the apron onto the announce table, which I thought was pretty good. And the best spot of the match is something he's getting pretty good at, that running Frankensteiner, where he runs up the ropes and Frankensteiner's off the top. It's fucking wild move. That's so good. I mean, I like that almost better than Angle's running belly to belly. It's so good. So then they are on the outside of the ring, and Kaiser throws Breaker into the steel steps. So Breaker goes into those steps again. They've been doing that. And that's when Kaiser's going to go for that running attack that these guys have been doing to each other. So he goes for that running attack to smash Breaker up against the steps or whatnot. But he's intercepted by Sheamus, who hops the barricade, hits him with a brogue kick. He goes down like a fucking ton of bricks. And then Sheamus picks up Ludwig to hit him with a power bomb. But when he's up in power bomb position, Breaker comes in with the spear. Looked pretty good. Down goes Sheamus, and Braun Breaker is pretty pissed off about this. We cut backstage. He's yelling at Adam Pearce and basically says that he wants an IC title shot. These guys keep fucking up my business. They keep interfering in my matches, even though I've told them not to. Ludwig screwed it up for me last week against Sheamus. Sheamus screwed it up against this week for me against Ludwig. I want an IC title shot, blah, blah, blah. He's screaming, he's yelling, and then right behind him is the Intercontinental Champion, Sami Zayn. And he goes, look, Braun, it's just me and you. Anytime, any place, you name that, and you've got your match. And Breaker's like, okay, me and you, Intercontinental title, Money in the Bank. And then Zayn is like, Pearce, tell Breaker he's got his match. It's done. So it's going to be Breaker and Sammy at Money in the Bank. Now, it was rumored Sean Ross Sapp and somebody else both tweeted a few minutes after the match saying that there's some chatter backstage about Ludwig Kaiser being hurt. He might have been hurt in this. Saw something about ribs, saw something about ankle. Don't really know if you guys have seen any updates on this. Let us know in the chat. That's terrible, even though I poke fun at Ludwig because of how he looks, and he looks like someone who should be doing naked yoga at the beginning of Die Hard 2. Still don't want him to be hurt, and I hope he's all right. And if he is hurt, I hope he recovers quickly, because it sounds like they need him to be a part of all of this. He's involved with this stuff right now, and I feel like it's for a reason. And I thought maybe it could be Kaiser being involved in this whole deal could be a way to get one more match out of Breaker and Sammy. Like if Breaker breaks Sami Zayn right there in Toronto at Money in the Bank, that would be great. But I thought we were going to see maybe something like Sheamus or Ludwig maybe interfere in the Intercontinental title shot or Intercontinental title match, and then you get like a three-way out of that then leads to a rematch at SummerSlam between Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn, something like that. But if Kaiser's hurt, that could affect that plan if it's the plan. But I got a better plan. Here's my prediction about this whole thing, okay? Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn, Intercontinental Championship match at Money in the Bank, right? That match is happening on July 6th, which is early July, right? Ricochet's contract is rumored to be up sometime in the second half of July. So what I predict is going to happen is Ricochet is going to show up at Money in the Bank and cost Braun Breaker the Intercontinental Championship. Braun Breaker is going to be so pissed about that he's going to demand a match with Ricochet on the very next Raw, which will be 2 days later, right? WWE does Saturday PLEs these days. So 2 days later on Raw, it'll be Ricochet versus Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker will demand this match. It will either be a loser leaves town match or it will be a Ricochet dies match. And I think it might be a Ricochet dies match. Breaker will take out his frustrations on Ricochet, absolutely demolish him in a match, and off to AEW you go. Then Breaker gets the rematch at SummerSlam against Sami Zayn and wins the belt there. What do you think? That sounds like the way to do it to me, because I'm not convinced that was the last we saw of Ricochet. WWE has never, ever written anyone off TV that way, permanently. They've written people off TV that way for a short time, but they always come back. Nobody's ever left the promotion in the way that Ricochet left. That's why he's coming back at Money in the Bank, costing Breaker the match, and then 2 nights later on Monday Night Raw, Braun Breaker destroys him. And then 2 weeks after that, your boy's on Dynamite. That's my prediction. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. Then we cut backstage, and it's Judgment Day. They're back there. This is hilarious. Balor and JD and Carlito are in there playing video games. Double Dragon on the NES. It's a great game. No, they're not playing that. I wish they were. And Dominic, over on the couch, is eating an entire platter. A silver platter of dry chicken nuggets. The boy is a sociopath. Totally dry, no sauce, fucking platter of these things. These shits are frozen, man. You don't need to fucking microwave 5 dozen of them. Microwave a little bit at a time. Put them in a little basket with some wax paper, a little hot sauce, something like that. Anything? Come on. What's wrong with you, Dominic? Me and you both live in San Diego. We know how spicy this food is here. You and your dry chicken nuggets, my God. And why a platter? Why not just a little plate of them? I love that he's got to indulge on chicken nuggets. What are you showing off how rich you are because you can afford a box of chicken nuggets? Wow, $8. Way to go. Oh, Dominic. So he's gnawing on his chicken nuggets, and the morons are playing video games. In comes Priest, and Dominic is like, dude, all this shit in here are gifts from Liv Morgan. She sent him the Xbox or whatever, and the TV and the video games and the chicken nuggets on the platter. It's all from Liv. And then as Priest is trying to warn the young feller at the scandalous nature of them lady folk, because they are scandalous. Trust me, they scandalous. So as he's trying to warn Dominic about the scandalousness of Liv Morgan, Dom receives a text message. We don't get to see what the text message is. It's obviously a picture. And he shows it and he goes, oh, and all of Judgment Day looks at him like, damn. So Dom has gotten him some thirsty pictures from Liv Morgan. That's tremendous. I love that. And they were almost kind of like, I think Carlito said something. Didn't she help him win last week or whatever? He even said something along the lines of, hey, she helped me win last week. How bad can she be? And she wasn't going to be done with the Judgment Day because she would be doing them more favors in just a little while. She did a lot of favors, big favors for Judgment Day. It was great. Up next, we had a Money in the Bank qualifier. One of my least favorite names in the business, along with Braun Breaker, Lyra Valkyria. Can we get a Jennifer Davenport up in here? My God, what is with these names? Lyra Valkyria. Okay, whatever. Lyra is taking on Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler. And Lyra won. Had a feeling she would, because I do like, I'm not nothing against Lyra, the person, the wrestler. She's actually pretty damn good. And I've warmed up to her since she's came up, but she's very kind of generic looking and feeling, and I don't get what she's doing with her hands, and I don't understand the feathers, and I don't like the name, but in terms of just her abilities in the ring, she's a good, tough little athlete, and I wish her the best. Just don't like her name. But I wasn't surprised here at all that she won because WWE seems to like her. So she qualifies there. She will be moving on to the Money in the Bank. I don't think she's going to win it, though. Then we're backstage again with Drew McIntyre and General Manager Pierce. And Pierce is like, Drew, you can't just declare for the Money in the Bank. You quit last week. You got to qualify for it or whatever. And then McIntyre lays out all the ways he's been screwed. He goes, I beat Seth Rollins and he's getting a title shot at Money in the Bank. What fucking sense does that make? You owe it to me to put me in the Money in the Bank. And what's great about this, that's why I think like a heel turn could be possible. Drew McIntyre is kind of having a lot of the same issues that Bret Hart did when he turned heel. He was getting screwed, remember? He kept getting screwed, and one specific person kept fucking with him, and it was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Austin and Bret is a lot like Punk and Drew right now, because Drew is growing increasingly frustrated, although, Bret was a face and Drew's already healed. This is going to be a reverse turn. But it's very similar because McIntyre, he's getting madder and getting madder. Even when Bret was still a babyface, fans were starting to get annoyed with him whining so much, but he was right. Everything that Bret was crying about, he had a point. He had one hell of a gripe in most of those complaints. Everybody's out to screw him. He's getting screwed over and over, and nobody's doing anything about it. That one night, the night after the Rumble, and he came out and he screamed at Vince McMahon. That's like McIntyre screaming at Pierce. And so it's got some shades of that. And McIntyre's frustrations, are really starting to, boil over here. But everything he laid out to Pierce, highlighting why he believes he should just be let in this match, all of them were good points. All of them. So Pierce is still going to make him qualify, but everything that McIntyre said was pretty much 100% accurate. As they're talking, in walks Liv Morgan. She's going to be our weekly long entrance of the night this week. She walks right past him. The cameras follow her all the way out to the ring for a promo. And she's in there, and she's smiling and laughing, and she wants Dominic to come out and receive yet another gift. And a lot of people called this out on social media. We were all expecting Zelina Vega to come out. I don't think it's time quite yet for Rhea Ripley, although Fightful Select did offer an update on Ripley today, and it does sound like the plan and the hope still is for her to be back before SummerSlam. So maybe the week after Money in the Bank, she can hit the ring or do something, but they're really building this up. When she comes back, it's going to be super interesting. So, but first, Zelina Vega comes out. Shout out to Kyle from Apron Bump. I saw his tweet, and he goes, why does Zelina Vega always dress like an asshole? And I thought the same thing when she came out there wearing that. I like Zelina Vega just fine, but it seems like she is 98% outfit and 2% everything else. Her shit is always so over the top, but she's not a super credible wrestler. She's got a title shot. She's gotten some title shots, done some things, but she's 3.5 feet tall. And I've looked at her more of I don't want to say valet, because that's not fair. She's not a valet, but a wrestler who doesn't wrestle very often. Like her pairing with Andrade, I thought was so perfect. They were great together. Her with Andrade was a lot like, Lita with Essa Rios. They were a good pair. But in terms of her being in the ring, being a credible challenger for championships, I've just never gotten that vibe from her. So she comes out dressed like a complete fucking maniac again, and she's in there. And we knew this was probably going to set up a match because they had a run in last week. But before they can set that up or make any sort of announcement, Zelina does make her intentions known that she wants a title shot against Liv Morgan, and that's when Dominic shows up. And Dominic comes out, and he is booed loudly, very loudly. He can barely say anything. And once he gets in the ring, the fans start chanting sloppy seconds. So he's trying to speak above a loud sloppy seconds chant. So remember where you were. June 24th, 2024, sloppy seconds chant on WWE. And we had a a sign in the background that said, "Will you be my Pookie?" which is obviously a reference to the Haktua girl that's been making all sorts of noise this week on the social medias. So Dominic was up against a wall here trying to speak with all that chatter, with all that distraction. And he says that he wants to help Zelina Vega win the title because anybody but Liv Morgan, he wants anybody to have that title than her. And that's when Liv Morgan and Zelina Vega start brawling. They are fighting with each other. Rey Mysterio then hits the ring to pull Liv Morgan off of his fellow LWO stablemate there, and he's grabbing a hold of Liv Morgan to pull her off. And that's when Dominic shoves down Rey. Rey goes down. Dominic pushes Rey down, and Liv is enamored by this. She loves this because in her mind, Dominic came to her rescue. In her mind, Dominic instinctively protected her, which isn't what happened, but that's what she was going to make it out to be. And Dominic just kind of left a little bit frustrated. So we got that whole segment there. I just cannot wait till Mommy gets back. This is going to be some crazy shit. So then we go backstage again. Adam Pearce is back there talking to Kathy Kelly in front of Chad Gable's locker room, and Pearce is saying that Gable is cleared, but that Gable isn't really in a position right now maybe to explain what happened to him, and then he might not even know what happened to himself. So they kind of left that kind of vague. But then after that, we're backstage again with Liv and Dominic, and Liv is back there thanking Dominic for saving her from Rey Mysterio. She gives him a huge hug, and he's just like, "God damn, get off me," and goes away. And that's when R-Truth shows up. And R-Truth is happy that he's seeing love in the air, but he thinks that Tom and Nick Mysterio are playing hard to get. And Liv goes, "Yeah, they are." So Liv totally plays into this and is messing with Truth and winds up manipulating a tag team title shot out of him for Finn Balor and JD. She starts being all nice and giving him the pretty eyes and everything. And, do you think you could do me another favor? And of course, R-Truth is having all of his normal misunderstandings and miscommunications as usual. And don't forget, Miz is on commentary for all this, watching this happen on the monitor. And Liv is kind of, playing R-Truth a little bit and asks him if he can secure a tag team title shot for her friends because she wants to do more. She wants to do another favor for Dom, and it would be really important to her if she could get tag team title shots for his friends. And of course, R-Truth is one half of the tag team champions, and he's like, "All right, I'll see what I can do," or whatever. We cut back to the arena now. Miz is just like dumbfounded, and he runs off, and I'm like, boop, there you go. As soon as he got up and ran off, because the next match out was Gable, Strowman, and Reed in the Money in the Bank qualifier. Prior to tonight, I kind of thought Gable, Strowman, and Reed might be the main event because of the Wyatt stuff with Gable. But when that match started happening next, I started going up. Bells started ringing off. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if Gable, Strowman, and Reed isn't the main event, what is? The tag team title match. And there is no way they're going to do Awesome Truth versus Judgment Day in the main event with Liv Morgan being the reason that they secured the title shot. There is no way we're not going to see a championship shot. So at that moment, I tweeted out, "Congratulations, Finn Balor and JD McDonough on winning the tag team titles," because I knew 1000% you were gonna. Even before the main event, I tweeted out the link to this stream. I said, "Hey, after Judgment Day wins the tag team titles, join us for Monday Night Raw," because that is absolutely what is going to happen, especially when you kind of put two and two together and realize that match is going to be the main event. There's no way Miz and R-Truth are closing the show celebrating with the titles. That's not happening. They've held the titles way too long as it is, and they were definitely setting that up here. You could tell. Then it is time for Chad Gable, Braun Strowman, and Bronson Reed. Triple threat match, Money in the Bank qualifier. Gable here, just little tiny little feller in there with these two bookends. I don't know what the hell he's going to do, but the Wyatt stuff was a bigger distractor. So when he makes his entrance, he seems to be all right. He's on the mic. He goes, "Do you believe in miracles?" He seems to be mostly Chad Gable. And one thing that I was curious about with the Wyatt Six is if they were going to do maybe like a House of Black thing to where, like, if they get to you, does that basically infect you with the virus? And then it's like kind of a slow thing. That's what I thought happened to Alexa Bliss when she kind of came under the influence of the Fiend a little bit. And it started subtly. Remember, she would like leave the ring and kind of do some weird faces, and then she was coming out with like wild hair and everything. And I'm like, oh, and she slowly transitioned into that nutcase that she turned into. And I was wondering if it was going to be kind of like that, if now that Gable is infected with the Wyatt virus or whatever, if he just slowly starts exhibiting some subtle changes to his personality, to his gimmick, to his character, to his wrestling style, anything. And he's not really doing that, but maybe a little. Now, I was curious who was going to win this match, because Reed and Strowman, neither of these guys I see winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. So why would either need to qualify? Gable, I didn't really see winning the Money in the Bank briefcase until recently. You know, Gable was targeting the Intercontinental title. That's what I thought the end game was going to be Gable going after that and eventually winning it. Now that might be changing because Gable is in this Money in the Bank qualifier and he doesn't seem too affected by the Wyatt Six. So what's going to happen? Well, I knew that Strowman's was going to get tied in with Judgment Day somehow because he's been messing with them. And that's what happened. Judgment Day showed up in the match and attacked Braun Strowman, and that allowed Gable to hit the big moonsault onto Bronson Reed and qualify for the Money in the Bank. So now it's Chad Gable, and we'll get into what happened after the match in a second here, but now that Gable has qualified, I'm starting to wonder, because I'm also remembering that report that we heard about WWE recently being very impressed with Braun Breaker. And they are making plans to make him be a significant part of the show. He seems like he has now slipped into this feud for the Intercontinental title. He's almost like overstepped and stepped in front of Gable now, and he's going to be the one targeting the Intercontinental Championship. Unless, you know, I expect Ricochet to cost him the match and then Breaker to kill Ricochet, but I still think Breaker could win the Intercontinental title after that, but maybe not. Maybe he finds a different motivation or whatever, but I think it's probably going to remain Breaker as the guy to take the title off Sammy, where before I thought it was Chad Gable. What we were all expecting is eventually, because another thing you got to remember, we've talked about all this shit with Gable and the Wyatt Six. We haven't even talked about Alpha Academy and that whole thing and how that has imploded. And finally, Alpha Academy ditched him and dumped him last week, although I still don't think we've seen the real closure on that, as we would see later, because we got more to talk about with this. But with the Alpha Academy imploding, all of us have been talking for many, many weeks how it feels like what they're going to do is replace Alpha Academy with the Creeds and with Ivy Nile. And Gable's going to create this Team Angle type of faction. I thought the Creeds would immediately take the titles off of Our Awesome Truth, and Ivy Nile could win the title or something, who knows, and they'd have belts all over the place, right? Well, now it's like all the stuff that they've done with Gable over the past couple of weeks, you're wondering if that's still going to happen or if that's still the plan. And I'm like, no, they can still get there. What I'm wondering is if WWE changed their plans, because I've always felt that even though Chad Gable has lost 5 Intercontinental Championship matches since last August, even with all of those losses, I still feel like he was going to win the IC title. But maybe with Breaker now being the guy going after the IC title, and with Chad Gable recently resigning, he's been great this past year despite a lot of these title match losses. He has really built himself up. We are a far cry from Shorty G. Maybe now the centerpiece of Gable and his new faction isn't going to be the Intercontinental Championship. It might be the Money in the Bank briefcase. And I could see maybe them helping him out at Money in the Bank or something, or, you know, maybe he wins it on his own. But after that, if he aligns with these guys and then picks his moment right, he could cash in on the guy that beat him all of those times for the Intercontinental title, Gunther. And I'm into that plan. And I'm not saying right away. I'm not saying he cashes in at the night of SummerSlam. I'm talking December. Let Gunther win the title, successfully retain at Bash at Berlin and the next pay-per-view and the Bad Blood and the Survivor Series. And then maybe sometime at the end of the year, maybe the Royal Rumble or whatever, Chad Gable cashes in the briefcase and beats Gunther, wins the World Heavyweight Championship, and he's beaten Gunther, gotten that win back that a lot of fans thought he deserved. And there's a story there. There's a story with him and Gunther. They have a ton of history. And for him to now, after Gunther dominated him, after all those times Gable attempted to win the IC title from Gunther, Gunther put him down every time. And now Gable comes in, steals the world title from him, and now it's going to be Gunther chasing him. Now Gunther wants his belt, and boom, you got a fucking program now. You know, with maybe, if you want to do it really quick, like they used to do back in the day, maybe Gable can win the title in December or January, and then Gunther wins it back at WrestleMania or something. But I think you could have a Gunther and Gable program again, just like we did for the Intercontinental title, only this time it's for the world title, and Gable's champion, not Gunther. And then Gunther, you know, eventually beats him again for it. Now he's a 2-time champion. Like, I can see that stretched out in the macro over the next, 18 months as being a possibility. Next 6 to 18 months, you know, if they really want to stretch this out, I would love to see it go in that direction. Now, prior to that, he still has to officially split with the Alpha Academy and join up with the Creeds, and I wasn't sure if that was still going to happen. So tonight, I tweeted all of this out. Basically, what I just said, I put in a tweet. 3 minutes later is when we see this backstage segment, this next one I'm about to talk about, where Chad Gable goes to Alpha Academy's door. And he knocks on the door. Otis comes out. Gable admits that he was wrong, admits that he took things too far, admits that he was abusive. He says he's sorry, and he wants forgiveness. And Otis reiterates that they are done. He goes, I'm sorry what happened to you. I'm glad you're okay, but I'm done. I meant what I said, and we are done with you. And Maxine kind of sticks around. Otis leaves, and Maxine kind of tells Gable, you really hurt Otis. You have to understand that you really hurt him. He just needs some time. Let me talk to him. So she's making it sound like she's going to try to, you know, maybe get Otis, you know, back on the team. And then she leaves. And then when she leaves, Gable is then approached by who else but the Creeds and Ivy Nile. So it's back on. There we go. That right there is your confirmation that this still is the plan, because it's been on our radar for a while. And I speculated in last week's podcast that maybe Triple H, because he knows what we know, he knows that we know things. So if he's like, oh shit, they know about our Creed brothers plan, let's take them on a little bit of a scenic tour before we get to that. Or let's pivot and go in a completely different direction totally. But I feel like maybe this is a combination of both. This and maybe the decision to position Braun Breaker in a better spot on the card. So now he's going to be the guy to win the Intercontinental title. And Triple H is like, let's make Gable a world champion. That's what he should have been. So my bold prediction for within the next 12 months, between now and 1 year from July 6th next month in Money in the Bank, Chad Gable will be world champion. I believe it. I think it's going to happen. He's been involved in a lot. I mean, the fact that they're kind of making him a part of this Wyatt family thing too is interesting. Or the Wyatt Six stuff. The fact that they attacked and laid out a whole bunch of people, but it's like Gable is the only one they're like focusing on. And that's when I guess I need to backtrack, because after that match, when he won the Money in the Bank qualifier, prior to him being in Alpha Academy's door, prior to him being approached by the Creeds and Ivy Nile, after the match, the lights go out. We hear the freaky, creepy piano music. The fireflies are out. We got smoke filling the ring. And we have, I guess, Nikki Cross, Sister Abigail, or whatever her character is called, crawling through the smoke. Gable falls down and runs off. And she's got like a box, a package. And WrestleVotes had tweeted out during Raw that they were hearing that the Wyatt Six plans on delivering a package to the announce team that could play into perhaps Pat McAfee's absence. And I thought it was going to be an explanation of that. But all it was a package. It took her forever to get over there and put it in front of Michael Cole. He opens it up, and it's a VHS tape. And he's like, does anybody have a VHS machine? AKA VCR. So he opens that up, and it's just a tape. So they came out during Gable's business. You know, they're still attached to him in some way, and I think that could maybe always be a thing. I think maybe they could start it now, and then the next several weeks on TV is Gable's doing his business. We don't see any connection between him and the Wyatt family, and then they come back to it, especially if like Chad Gable wins the title or something. even though I think it's going to be Gunther's time, maybe that's all going to play into it somehow, or if he's going to be involved with the storyline in the future, we don't know. But the Wyatt Six's gift came after the Chad Gable match, so there's definitely a connection there. We are then backstage again. Damian Priest sees Liv Morgan leaving his locker room with his boys. And he sees her and she goes, toodaloo or whatever. And he goes, oh, thank God. Dominic, hopefully that was you ending it. And he walks in and Dominic's not there. Finn Balor is there, just chilling out on the couch. And Balor says that she was able to get them the tag team title shot in the main event. I had already tweeted congratulations Judgment Day by this point. But this was Balor making it official, saying that she worked her magic and she's gotten a title shot. And hey, I know that she's trouble. She is a troublemaker, a sexually charged troublemaker at that. But we're getting victories. She's sending us video games. We're winning championships. I mean, come on. So I'm liking this. And as soon as that was another reason why I knew Judgment Day was going to win tonight, because if Liv Morgan is helping this faction out, that's just going to make it all the more crazy when Mommy comes back, because Rhea, is already pretty pissed about what Liv has done to Dom. Now what she's doing to the rest of her boys, oh man, that's going to be some good television. Going to be eating well that night when she shows back up. I am ready for that. So then we are back out to the ring for a World Championship segment. Damian Priest, World Heavyweight Champion, comes out. Of course, he has his big match with Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank in a couple of weeks. And he brings Seth Rollins out. He says some things. I didn't pay much attention. Rollins comes out, and now they're both in the ring face to face. And basically what happens in this promo is that Rollins proposes the stipulation. I guess he kind of words it because when he came out last week, Damian came out and stole his thunder, and Damian made the challenge to him. And he goes, so this week I'm out here to steal your thunder, and I have a challenge to make for you. And after a few, a little banter back and forth, Rollins proposes this stipulation to where if he loses, he will never be able to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship again. This is what tells me WWE's got long-term storylines in place, because you wouldn't just willy-nilly do this, Cody willy-nilly did that in AEW, and look what happened. He had to go to the lowly WWE to win their world title instead of staying in the prestigious AEW. He made a big mistake. So we don't want to see Seth make the same one here. WWE make the same mistake with Seth Rollins here. But making that stipulation, because I just don't believe he's going to win the championship. Gunther is going to win the title at SummerSlam. There's no reason to stick the title on Seth for a month. Makes no sense. So I am not expecting Rollins to win the championship. So when Rollins says, if I lose, I can never challenge for that title again, that tells me that you ain't going to challenge for that title again, because you're going to win the Royal Rumble and win Cody's belt instead. That's what that tells me. And I think I might be right about that. But there's a second side of that stipulation. If Damian Priest loses, then he has to leave Judgment Day. That's interesting. With everything going on and the dissension and the uncertainty in Judgment Day right now, that would play very well into their story if Priest was forced to leave them. But I don't think that sounds right to me. Rollins holding the belt for a month to drop it to Gunther is way too 1999 for me, because the title's changing every 6 weeks back in 1999. But here, they got their shit together a little bit more, and it just doesn't. If Gunther is going to win the title, maybe Seth Rollins is a greater opponent for him to defeat. Sure, I suppose. But Priest has had his run. If you were going to hot potato anybody, you would have given it to Drew at Clash. So there's no evidence to me. Nothing is pointing to Rollins winning this championship and Money in the Bank. To me, it's a guaranteed no. Now, it might not be a victory for him. Like I said, we could see interference. We could see the Wyatt Six. We could see Judgment Day. We could see some sort of DQ or some bullshit that just cancels out the stipulations. And then you do the triple threat at SummerSlam. That way Rollins' presence in the championship match can add some spice. Just give a little, kick it up a notch, Because I think that would be a fun triple threat. Rollins, Priest, Gunther. It'd be super fun. But it doesn't look now, based on the stipulation, that that's even a possibility at this point. So we need to look at this match as having one winner and one loser, and I just don't see Seth Rollins winning. So if Rollins loses, like I said earlier, what does Rollins do at SummerSlam? I feel like he's going to have to face whoever shows up and costs him the match here or something. I mean, Brock Lesnar could come back. I mentioned the Wyatt Six. If this is the main event, I could see the Wyatt Six showing up and doing something to fuck with Seth, and then you got Rollins and Uncle Howdy at SummerSlam. I mean, that might sound silly, but who else is Rollins going to work with, y'all? Give me examples. I want them. If Rollins loses at Money in the Bank, who is his SummerSlam opponent? It has to be somebody. He ain't going to be left off the card. And who else on Raw do they have that's a big enough opponent for SummerSlam that wouldn't be just like a normal Raw match? Because at this point, Rollins can work with anybody on the Raw roster, and it would just be a Raw match. What is pay-per-view worthy? What's SummerSlam worthy if it's not going to be a title match? Are you following my train of thought here? He's got to do something. So in my mind, he was either going to be in the triple threat, and the world title match is going to be a triple threat with Rollins involved, or he's going to be working with somebody else. What I don't see happening is him winning the championship and then dropping it to Gunther. It could be Rollins and Gunther. I suppose Gunther came out at the end of this and got between the two of them and basically wished both of them luck. Had a lot of good things to say about both. He said, Rollins, you're the man that made this championship's legacy what it is. And Priest is the guy that's been carrying Raw on his back all year. So, or since WrestleMania. So he was very complimentary. So when I saw the three of them there, I'm like, I really like my SummerSlam idea of having a triple threat. But when you have a stip like you do at Money in the Bank, I don't know how you get to that now. So looking at all the different variables here and the different possibilities, who in the chat thinks that Rollins winning the belt and dropping it to Gunther sounds like a realistic thing WWE does in 2024? Just doesn't to me. So he's losing, which means he cannot challenge for the world title for the rest of the year, which is in a way good, because now it gives you don't have to explain why he's not in the world title picture. This is the problem they had with Undertaker way back in the days, because you can't really justify not giving him title shots because he never loses. So what do? You distract us with multiple different opponents, monsters, giants, all different type of people that he has all of these feuds with to distract him from the championship, so they don't have to, on TV, try to explain to the fans why the most dominant person in the company never gets championship shots. And with Seth Rollins, this is a world champion. This is a guy that is a main eventer. He's nothing else other than a main eventer. He is always going to be in the title mix. He's never going to suffer enough losses that's going to knock him so far down the ladder that he's not within arm's reach of a title shot at all times. So he has to work with somebody big. It can't just be Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. This ain't 2016, So who's he going to work with? What's he going to do? What's going to happen? It's got to be Wyatt Six. It's got to be Wyatt Six. I think it's Seth Rollins and fucking Uncle Howdy at SummerSlam. That's my bold ass prediction right there. Because what else could it be? Yeah, see, Stephen Harris, I'm going around in circles because this whole damn thing is circle-ish. Oh, Michael Brown, yeah. Well, there you go. Chad Gable, okay. But, that would be good. Chad Gable and Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, but why? Why? Gable's going to win the Money in the Bank, and then unless the Money in the Bank's on the line, Rollins loses the match, can't challenge for the world title anymore. But if he wins the Money in the Bank, that should negate that clause. If he can't challenge for the world title, what if you got the Money in the Bank? Now I can, bitch. So it makes the whole stipulation void. And there would have to be a reason for Gable to actually put the briefcase on the line against Seth. So maybe there's not going to be a briefcase on the line. And Gable and Seth sounds great on paper, one-on-one. Could it be Gable and Rollins against the Wyatt Six or something? Maybe. But in order to get to Gable and Rollins at SummerSlam, you're going to have to do some work awfully quick. Like the night after Money in the Bank, there's got to be some sort of confrontation right there, and boom, that's our SummerSlam match. But again, why? What are the stakes? I doubt the Money in the Bank briefcase will be on the line. So why are you wrestling? You know, Gable and Rollins sounds beautiful. That's sexy. But why? That's my only problem. Why would they be wrestling if that's, you know, why would they be wrestling if that's the match they do? We would be treated with a nice match, sure, but why? That's my only thought. Okay. Next up, Michael Cole is going to address what came in the box. Of course, he opened it. It was a VHS tape. He was looking for a VHS machine, is what he said. I still have a VCR. I think I have 2 of them in the house. So Michael Cole says that they sent the tape back to the production truck, right? And they show the tape, and it starts playing. It's all glitchy, of course. And it's basically a video of Uncle Howdy talking to Bo Dallas. And I remember the first thing that was said, it was basically set up like an interview, almost like a psychiatrist interviewing somebody, where Uncle Howdy is talking to Bo Dallas. And the first thing he kind of said was like, how have you been since the loss? And I'm like, okay. How have you been since the loss? They're going to be referencing, obviously, Bray Wyatt's death. And they did a lot. And then he started asking him questions. And he said, how did it feel when your brother died? And Bo Dallas answered, he's like the most important thing in the world was taken away from me, and nothing was ever going to matter again. Illustrating a deeply, deeply hurt man here and traumatized brother for what happened to his brother. And Dallas talks about joining the company with his brother and how they meant to do this together. And the whole point was for them to be together. And then, you know, he goes on to say a few other creepy things and kind of closes with the line, we made them all remember. Like basically last week, they reminded us and made us remember. And Uncle Howdy says, kind of laughs, and he goes, yes, we did. And so I like that. Like, I thought that was cool. Again, you know, this is a very weird thing. I mean, for pro wrestling, we're dealing with kind of horror movies, spooky, supernatural, creepy type of goblins and monsters type of shit here. But if it's done well enough, I will give anything a chance. And I did like this because we are talking about real life here. And this is a really this is a dark storyline, a dark faction. But I'm choosing to feel confident in the fact that this has been well thought out. I mean, even dating back to that Bray Wyatt documentary, which probably came out months after it was shot. So, and at the end of that was when Bo Dallas kind of alluded to the fact that they're working on something big for us. So it feels like this has all been in the planning stages for about a year now. Well, less than that. I guess, when did Bray Wyatt pass away? August? So maybe not quite a year, but close. That they've had some ideas of how to take what Bray Wyatt was doing when he left and turn it into some sort of a tribute storyline for him, or something in his image and his name. And the Wyatt Six only having five members, the sixth member being the spirit of Bray Wyatt. Unless they bring Alexa Bliss into this, like if they start adding members, you can't be the Wyatt Six anymore. But there is, I suppose, room for one more, since technically you only have 5. And we're of the understanding that the 6th is Bray Wyatt's spirit, but you can bend that one and have Alexa Bliss in, and Bray Wyatt can still have his spirit there. So maybe we will see her down the road. Not really sure. Maybe the production truck thing tonight was just an Easter egg, not really a clue. But at least now we know, we think, what's going on here. Bo Dallas is a troubled soul. He is coping and dealing with his brother's death, obviously in a very extreme way, that is now making its way to television and eventually will be in the ring. Now, we have to remember Joe Gacy is a part of this faction. Eric Rowan is back, Dexter Lumis, and Bo Dallas. You think back to the Wyatt family, you know, if they could get in there and have even half the amount of success the Wyatts had, you know, think about the matches they had with the Shield and some of the great work the Wyatt family did as a trio. prior to Braun Strowman joining them was just tremendous. And if Gacy and Dexter can start having some bangers, tag matches and shit, and you find another strong force like, I don't know, Judgment Day, to butt up against or something, it might be interesting to see all that play out once they actually start getting in the ring, but then once they're in the ring, are their motivations going to be more about just winning championships? It's weird. It's hard to, especially for me, someone who doesn't really watch superhero movies or read comic books or know anything about horror or that genre at all. I can only judge this so much. You guys are probably better experts at this stuff. What works, what doesn't, what's believable, what's not, what's intriguing, what's not, than I am. But so far, I'm certainly not ready to make any hasty decisions. Yeah, the fact that they killed 15 people last week and then kind of brushed it off tonight was weird. And maybe it didn't make sense. But like I said earlier, I'm 42 years deep watching this stuff. It's never made sense. It's never made sense. So why is it going to start making sense now? So interesting stuff there. And we'll see what happens next week. If it's like how long this is going to take. If there's weeks of these type of videos, because this was a big production to get this tape delivered to Michael Cole. Camera followed Nikki Cross all the way to him. And then as she walked slowly all the way to the back, camera just followed her all the way back there before Cole even opened up the box. So is it going to be something else next week? Is Pat McAfee going to come back and act a little bit like Chad Gable? You're not really wanting to talk about it or whatever, or maybe he was abducted and anally probed. Who knows? He's just a little weirded out by it, and doesn't have a lot to offer, or is kind of vague in his when talking about it. And if we'll get another video, and how long it's going to take for this faction to actually make their way to the ring, even though we saw Nikki in the ring tonight, make their way in the ring and actually target somebody as a victim. That's why I think it might be Seth Rollins, because I don't know who else it can be other than Gable. So that's the thing. I think they could either come in and screw Gable out of the Money in the Bank or Rollins out of the championship, but something's got to give in that Rollins and Priest match. I guess one outcome we're not talking about here that we should at least consider: does Priest beat him clean? Maybe. I wouldn't even hate it if Priest beat Rollins clean. I wouldn't even hate it, but I guess we never explored that option, but that's one too. After that, we had Karrion Kross versus Kofi Kingston. This shit. They advertised Kross and Xavier last week, took that away from us. Then Kross challenged both of them. Kofi accepted. Now we got the match here. And Kross is trying to, I guess, recruit or convince Xavier to dump these guys, because Xavier's had to watch Kofi and Big E make it to the big time and, all that shit. And he should break away from them to become successful. He might actually succeed in breaking Xavier away, because I just don't know how many more years Kofi and Xavier need to be treading water like this. If Big E, we love him, God bless him, if he's permanently out of the ring and he's not coming back, I don't see the point. They are just, the New Day is existing. They're just existing. And these are two great professionals. Kofi and Xavier, I have the utmost respect for both as wrestlers. I'd like to see them try to do something here, before Kofi retires or whatever, maybe something different. And I appreciate how long they've stayed together. And if Big E wouldn't have gotten hurt, I would have never wanted to see him break up. But, nowadays, how many more tag team titles can they win at this point? And this could be something fun for them to do. Something that Xavier Woods is into all that stuff too. He's very into video games and he knows all that cartoony stuff. So he might want to play a wacky character. He might want to do that. Have some fun. He's super charismatic, Xavier Woods. We know that. So maybe he can go in a little darker direction just for fun, just to say he did it in his career. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see where all this leads, but whatever they're doing, they're taking a sweet ass time getting there. I guess maybe it'll happen at SummerSlam, if they even give these guys a SummerSlam match. I don't even know. But Kross is taking on Kofi. During the match, the Authors of Pain and Paul Ellering appear on the screen, and they are beating the shit out of Xavier Woods backstage. That distracts Kofi. Kross hits his finisher for the win, and that saga continues. What the end result is going to be, don't know yet, but if they're going to do all of this, I would like to think that it's going to somehow give a new direction to Xavier Woods. We'll see. Up next, we had some announcements for next week. This was before the main event, by the way, which I had underlined wrong. There we go. So before the main event, they announced some pretty cool announcements. One for Money in the Bank, and the match that we were curious about and suspicious that was going to happen is the big six-man main event. Cody Rhodes, or not main event, six-man match. Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa. I think it's the Tongans. I don't think Jacob Fatu's in this, although I didn't look at the graphic. But it's going to be Cody and Randy and KO taking on the Bloodline at Money in the Bank. Meltzer is reporting that the planned title match for SummerSlam is Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa, and fans are flipping out. And, oh, that sucks and whatnot. And they're right, it does, but you have to remember, when it comes to the Bloodline, WWE loves these big post-match angles, right? They love big things going down. We saw it at the Royal Rumble. We saw it at SummerSlam and various times throughout the Bloodline's last couple of years, right? Especially with Sami Zayn. So if it's going to be Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa in the main event, I guarantee you we're going to see Roman Reigns. I don't know if it's going to be something simple and cheap like it was a couple of years ago at SummerSlam in Vegas. I was there for the John Cena and Roman Reigns match, and after the match, randomly, Brock Lesnar just came out. So they might do something like that. It might be Cody against Solo, a lot of Bloodline interference. Maybe Cody wins, and then after the match, when he's celebrating, out comes Roman Reigns, and it's just a face-off, and we're left to wonder what that means. Or Roman Reigns could come out and help Cody, who's being overwhelmed by the numbers game. There's all these rogue Samoans and Tongans out here swarming the ring, swarming Cody's uphill battle. There's no way this is a fair fight. And maybe Roman shows up and helps Cody beat them. Why not? Why not? Imagine that, and it's just an uphill battle the whole time. They can even do some shit on TV. Like they can have matches, stipulations, and Bloodline can win, allowing them to be at ringside and stuff, and really stack the deck against Cody. And then just have Roman Reigns come out there and help out. And you can have like Kevin Owens and Randy Orton and a whole bunch of other people try to help too, but maybe become unsuccessful. And then Roman shows up at the end and helps out somehow. So that could be what that's leading to, and that, I guess, is the only way I'm really okay with a Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa match. I don't really love that match any more than anybody else does, but if they're using it to have this big post-match angle and return of Roman Reigns, then I'm totally fine with it. Problem is, it's kind of predictable, so we'll see if that's what's happening. Maybe it's not Roman Reigns, maybe it's The Rock. We don't know, but I mean, if Solo Sikoa beats Cody Rhodes for the WWE title in the main event of SummerSlam, I'm moving to Indiana. You can find me in the woods somewhere. But they also, in addition to that six-man at Money in the Bank on Raw, they announced for next week a couple of Money in the Bank qualifiers, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre and Ilya Dragunov. Holy shit, in a triple threat Money in the Bank qualifier. Give me some of that. I'm sure Drew will win that, and I'm sure Braun Breaker might come out and fuck over Sheamus because Sheamus did that to Breaker tonight. So I think maybe Breaker is out to eliminate Sheamus, and then McIntyre is able to shove a Claymore up Dragunov's ass and qualify. And that's why, McIntyre in the Money in the Bank, I think Punk screws him and Chad Gable wins the Money in the Bank, and then Drew gets to face Punk at SummerSlam. That's what I'm doing there. For the women, they announced next week it's going to be Dakota Kai, Ivy Nile, and Zoe Stark in the Money in the Bank. My prediction is that Ivy Nile is going to qualify there, although maybe not. It's probably Dakota. It might be Dakota. I thought Ivy could be cool because if Ivy Nile and Chad Gable both win Money in the Bank, something to think about. Something to think about. It all depends on if Ivy qualifies next week. They also announced WrestleMania 39 rematch for next Monday's Raw. Father versus son, Dominic versus deadbeat Rey Mysterio, one-on-one after the shove down from Dom. and a title match for Liv Morgan against Zelina Vega next week on Raw. So 4 matches already announced for Raw next week. We'll see if they drop any of these, because they've had a habit of doing that lately. But at some point, you got to start wondering when we're going to see Rhea Ripley, when we're going to see Mommy return. Maybe next week is when it happens, but I think it'll probably happen on the other side of Money in the Bank. Might even be funny if she was healthy, if Rhea Ripley could be in Money in the Bank and win the briefcase, and then just use that as a way to not have to go through Adam Pearce and have him book an actual match. She can just go right to Liv and just take it from her right there at her leisure. I wouldn't mind seeing that, but I have a feeling Rhea will not be coming back to winning the briefcase. She doesn't need to. When she comes back, she can just get a title shot on the merit of her own Rhea Ripley-ness, Just give her a shot. That leaves us with the main event. J.D. McDonough and Finn Balor taking on Awesome Truth for the WWE Pizza Championships Raw Tag Team titles. This one was predictable from before it was even announced. Before they even announced the match, I knew what was going to happen here. And all the things we thought would happen would. Liv Morgan came out, of course, to be a part of this, since she was the one responsible for securing this title match for Judgment Day to begin with. Carlito was out there as well. So was Dominic to get involved. Braun Strowman came out to run them off since they were out there in his match. He came out to run the two of them off. And that leaves Judgment Day against Awesome Truth alone. So Liv Morgan is out there now. There's nobody else at ringside. She gets Art. She comes up on the apron and she calls over R-Truth. And of course, she was very nice to him backstage. And she gives R-Truth a big hug and then just kind of eyeballs one of the Judgment Day guys and then clotheslines R-Truth on the top rope. He eats the double drop kick from Balor. He's into the corner, down on the ground in perfect coup de Gracie position. Up goes Finn Balor, coup de grace onto R-Truth for the win, and brand new tag team champions J.D. McDonough winning his first title in the WWE. Big ass head and all. Now half of the tag team champions with Finn Balor. Finn Balor's second tag team championship partner in the same faction. So they now have some gold, and it's all because of Liv Morgan. So they're going to have to give her some credit. They're going to have to start thinking about maybe letting her in the group, knowing that when Mommy comes back, they're all going to die. But now they're really struggling with what to do next. So it's Liv's being great. This worked for her. I'm so glad, because Liv Morgan, I've always liked her as a performer and a wrestler, but again, she's never really been a character that I'm really paying to see or excited to see on TV or whatever. She's just kind of there. But this is working. This little Jezebel, this troublemaker, this shit stirrer, this instigator, this manipulator, this scandalous woman. I love it. I love what she's doing to Dom. I love that she's openly admitting what she's doing to Dom and she doesn't give a shit. And it fits her. It fits her like a damn glove. I never really, her as a babyface wasn't doing it for me. This is working, and I like it a lot. So that's why I think that, when Rhea Ripley comes back, it might not just be as simple as, oh, Ripley's going to come back, murder Liv, and she'll be champ again. Liv is getting herself over here. So, you might have to rework some plans when Ripley comes back. That might be what they're setting in motion here, knowing that, oh, Morgan is actually getting pretty over here. So maybe it's not going to be as simple as Ripley just killing her when she comes back. So we could actually see Morgan survive a match with Ripley and keep the title if it even comes to that. And if it does lead to Dominic turning on Mommy, which it very well might. He might decide the whole damn Judgment Day might kick out Mommy in favor of Liv. That would be insane to me. I don't know why you would want to do that, no matter how many favors Liv Morgan gives you. But maybe that's what they're setting up, or at the very least, Liv turning Dom to her side. He's still resistant right now. Maybe he eventually succumbs to Liv and starts doing her bidding. We will see. Overall, I thought tonight's Raw was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I've been saying that a lot of weeks lately. There was a social media post up today. I can't remember who posted it, showing that I guess 5 years ago today, in 2019, WWE drew its lowest crowd ever for a pay-per-view, 3,500 fans. For comparison, this past week's Dynamite, the Dynamite with the shitty rating, drew 4,700. Drew 1,200 more fans than WWE's pay-per-view did in 2019. Things were bleak. I think that was the Stomping Grounds pay-per-view. That might have been the one with like Becky and Rollins against like Lacey Evans and shit. That match, I think. And they compared the crowd size to last week's Monday Night Raw. And in those 5 years, it is amazing the turnaround. 3,500 people in attendance for a pay-per-view with the entire arena darkened to just a regular Monday Night Raw on the calendar packed to the rafters. Ugh. How did we do it, y'all? What the hell was I talking about every week when I was coming up here for reviews and podcasts? Was I going through the results of these shows? Is that what I was doing? Was I talking about what we actually had to watch in 2019? And the fucking Thunderdome and the pandemic and all that terrible shit? We were talking about that stuff and enjoying it? Man, I am glad it is today. That's why I don't understand a lot of the anger and the negativity and the toxicity online. I'm like, Jesus, man, would you rather it be 2019 in here or something? I think things are pretty damn good right now across the board compared to the way it used to be. So as wrestling fans, we've certainly seen far worse times. So why are we all up each other's asses? All these people want things to make sense. Well, that doesn't make sense to me. So what the F? Let's go to the chat, see what you guys have to talk about. And then we will wrap up this podcast since it's been going for a while. 7th season. Yeah, good point. The 6-man tag at Money in the Bank is a lot like that International Incident tag match. Let's go up here and knock out Super Chats. Oh, see, I didn't get a dollar amount on there. I just saw $350 million deal for that Indianapolis deal. Man, WWE, they got lots of money. If you need a loan, just call them. Joshua Aparicio, thank you for the $5, my friend. Good to see you back. Punk vs. McIntyre should have a glass match or a Crimea River match. Crimea River match might be more fun because there's been a lot of crying. There's been a lot of complaining, and McIntyre could pitch that. I challenge you to a Crimea River match. Oh, that'd be great. That would be great. Rarely Even, what's up, dude? Welcome back. Appreciate the 5 from you, my friend. Triple H is killing it, Greg. These little details and nuances are paying dividends. These little details he focuses on changes everything. WWE production in general is focusing on a lot. It's not just Triple H, but the storytelling is what you're talking about. He definitely cares to nuances. He cares about details. These are things that Vince McMahon was oblivious to and sometimes didn't even know what the hell he did the week before. You know, Triple H is way more organized, and the people he works with creatively, you know, we used to spend so many years complaining about Bruce. Bruce is still there from what I understand. I don't think it was ever Bruce. I think it was Vince. I think it was all Vince, you know, because what they're doing has just been really, really top-notch stuff. It really has. WWE feels like they're hitting. Wrestling feels like a legitimate form of entertainment again. Because for a while there, we were hiding our heads in shame for watching this nonsense. The only reason we did is because of a loyalty to it, because we're wrestling fans. But for the past like 14 years has been boring as shit. The entire time I've been doing this damn channel has been boring as all shit. It's only gotten cooking in the last couple of years, and a lot of that is because Vince got caught with his wrinkly dick and grapefruits in the cookie jar, and I'm glad that he did, because now he's gone. 5 more from Rarely Even. Imagine Vince sitting at home watching the product these days like an angry sports fan. He's supposed to be Shorty G, goddammit. I'm wondering, like, if Vince obviously is aware of the success the company is seeing. I'm wondering if this is something that he's happy about because this is his baby and he's happy to see it succeed, or if it's a selfish perception of it because he's no longer there and he's angry and bitter that it's succeeding without him. It's very likely it's the latter there because that's how Vince is. 5 more from Rarely. We're still due for a Rollins-Punk feud at some point. We are. Punk's got to work with Cody and Rollins at some point. I don't know if his body can hold up to get all of these feuds done. I hope they can. 5 more from Rarely Even. Do you think it's possible for Punk to have one more run with the world title before he's done? Yes, but it all depends on his health. And I said that in Saturday's podcast. It's crucial that when he comes back and he gets in the ring, that he doesn't get hurt 15 minutes later. Because that's happened to him now the last 3 times he's gotten back in the ring. Got hurt, came back, got hurt, came back, got hurt, came back. So if he has a match with McIntyre and he tears something else, then the answer to that is no. Then that's it. He's done. His body will not hold up. You can't put the title on him because he's not reliable from a health standpoint. Dude can do business. One of the best talkers in the game. I want to see CM Punk around. I'm praying that he stays healthy because he can really have a run if he does. We can get the feud with Cody and Rollins, and if he starts cooking and he's rolling and he's staying healthy and he's not getting injured and he's stronger than ever, then yeah, Triple H is like, oh, we got the chance here to put the title on him one last time. We should do it. But if he suffers any sort of another injury, like if he comes back at SummerSlam and then in October, he's injured again that keeps him out for 10 months, then from there, he's just an attraction match guy, you know, he's going to have to be a Rock or a Brock or somebody like that who comes in and wrestles twice a year if he's lucky, because he's just not going to hold up on the full-time swing. And I still don't think he's even going to do the full schedule. I don't think he'll work house shows, and I think he'll work less pay-per-views than most, and he'll probably work, a lot less TVs too. But it would be nice to see CM Punk wrestle a match on Raw. What was the year that we last saw that? We were all a lot younger. I tell you that. Yo, Deshaun, Bo and Howdy were in the dark Firefly Funhouse. Thanks for that, man. Didn't realize that. I mean, I saw that it was smoky and dark, but I didn't realize it was the darkened Funhouse. That's cool. Doug Unfunny says Xavier tweeted something's got to change. Okay. Yeah, Isaac, a lot of talk about Jacob Fatu's criminal past and the fact that he hasn't been able to ever accept bookings outside the United States. I would like to think that he could get that rectified, but he's got a burglary charge and some other shit, I think, on his record that's not good. And since WWE just had all those international PLEs recently, and they got one coming up here at Money in the Bank, that's likely why they delayed his debut. And likely, I said earlier that I'm not sure if he's going to be in that 6-man at Money in the Bank. He's not. It's going to be Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa and Solo, because most likely Jacob Fatu can't be there. And what we need to watch for, and it's going to be weird if they do that if they do it this quick, because Jacob Fatu came in with such with such energy. He feels like he's invincible right now. But if he's not going to be at Money in the Bank, if he was a normal wrestler who didn't just debut and he was just another guy that has, and Jacob Fatu's been here for a while and they need to figure out a reason for him not to be at Money in the Bank, then I would have the baby faces attack him and put him through a table or something. Or Randy Orton, RKO him on a car. And then the announce team is just like, we've received word that Jacob Fatu is convalescing at home and he will not be at Money in the Bank, or he'll be back in a couple of weeks when he recovers, something like that. They could still do that, but then they're injuring and putting down and writing off TV a guy who debuted a week ago. So the Money in the Bank match is interesting. Is even though if he's not in the match per se, you would expect all Bloodline members to be all hands on deck and be there. So where the hell is he? Huh. Maybe they'll be real. Jacob Fatu is such a savage. When he was younger, he got in a bunch of trouble and he's not allowed to leave the U.S. They might as well be honest about it. Why not? Think about that. We got murder. We got all other sorts of characters, on TV. We got fucking mass murderers right now. How bad could a character be who once got arrested for robbery? I mean, Booker T talked about it a few times, and I know we've had other wrestlers that they mentioned Ken Patera's time in jail. Crush, they mentioned his time in jail. They could say something like that. I'd be totally for it. If Michael Cole was like, Jacob Fatu is so dangerous that he's not even, because of his past criminal record, he's not even allowed to travel outside the United States. I'd just be real about it. Why not? Like, that's not going to give WWE any bad who fucking cares? Who cares? Rarely even. 5 more. I wonder if Punk is apprehensive about taking Drew's Future Shock again, since that's the move that hurt him at the Rumble. Oh, I didn't even know that. Did he get hurt on the Future Shock, huh? He can take it. You just got to be careful. Just got to be careful, or, you know, you can't pussyfoot around either. One thing about the McIntyre and Punk match is that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be hard-hitting, brutal, and you're going to be taking some bumps. And Punk didn't take any bumps, even in the beatdown with all that grape jelly and raspberry jam all over his face. Didn't take any bumps. It all happened off camera, so we didn't see it. So I am curious that when they get back into, or when they get in the ring, how his body holds up in a match that's going to be that brutal. This is a guy who really hasn't gotten any real wrestling reps in a year. In a year, right? All in last year. Then he got injured. Did he get injured in the All In match? Yeah, he did. I think he did. Maybe he didn't. I can't remember. I've lost track of how many times he got injured. But dating all the way back to last year, him leaving AEW last August, it's going to be like a year in between him really being in there. So I don't know. I don't know how he's going to hold up. And you've got 5 more as well. Man, Cody is tough. Fatu broke 2 of his ribs, and he's still working through it. I did see that promo he cut at the end of the live event where he said he's got 2 broken ribs. Gnarly. You've had bruised ribs, and I was miserable. You can't breathe or sleep. Yeah, I've heard that. I've been lucky. I've never had bruised or broken ribs, but I've had friends who have had them, and I know that they are a bitch, an absolute bitch. But yeah, well, we have made it to about the 2-hour mark tonight, so that's longer than I thought we were going to do, or longer than I thought we were going to go. So if there's anything else you guys want to get into in the chat, it should be mentioned that today we are right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the Chris Benoit tragedies, and that sucks. We've done videos on it over the years, and probably for the big 20-year anniversary coming up in a couple of years, I'll do a big video, but that's always going to go down as the worst tragedy in the history of the business. And you always got to think about Nancy and Daniel on days like this, and you know, and their family and the people that lost them, and Chris Benoit's son, you know, of course, who has to live, you know, his life now knowing that all these things went down. And it's just awful, dark and horrible day back in 2007. 2007 was my favorite summer that I've ever had. And right smack dab in the middle of that summer was this tragedy. I still managed to have a good time, but I was absolutely floored by what happened. I was 29 years old, just a couple of months away from turning 30, and I couldn't even process it. Still can't really. I mean, looking back, but that was just so rough that tragedy of that magnitude happened. And now, of course, as a result of that, you know, we can never enjoy the body of work Chris Benoit had as an athlete. We see him sometimes on our watch-alongs when he has matches and stuff, and I'm like, man, you know, it is a shame, you know, that WWE will never talk about him again, and I don't blame them. We've just been robbed of everything. It sucks. Oh, thanks for that. Rarely even appreciate the $5. How is Shameless going, and how hot is Fiona? Yeah, Fiona is not shy about sharing her titties with us, is she? Which is fine. I'm liking it. We are wait, now I forgot. No, we're season 3. I'm about 5 episodes-ish into season 3. It's starting to get real. Frank just called the social services on all the kids and that motherfucker. And apparently this just all gets crazier. But so far, I'm really liking it. I've really done well about not looking up spoilers. I really have no idea what's going to happen. You guys have been cool about not spoiling anything for me. All you guys have been telling me is that it gets crazier. Just watch. It gets really, really crazy. And I can't even understand or fathom how it can get crazier than it currently is. The first season was like in the wintertime. Second season was in the summertime. So it was the season 2 was the season of sweaty titties. That's all you saw. They were just sweaty. Everybody was just sweaty the whole time. And now I'm into season 3 and I'm loving it. I really liked Weeds. I liked Orange is the New Black. And so I knew I would like this. I knew I would like Shameless because I liked some of those other shows. And so far, so good. This is way more my speed, even though it's super dark and depressing and like balls out fucked up. I can watch it and be entertained by it, where when I watched something like Breaking Bad, I was pissed. Even one of those Stranger Things seasons, it was one of those seasons, like 2 or 3, it was just too much torture. I'm like, I'm not watching little Q11 get tortured anymore. I'm tired of it. She doesn't deserve it. She's just a child. Leave her alone. Why are we torturing this kid? I could not stand it. I was getting fucking pissed. And Breaking Bad was the same way. I'm like, fuck this show. I don't like it. It's just too dark and depressing, and every character's evil as hell. Shameless is like that too. They're all bad, but there's humor. I like the comedy, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So I will be resuming some of that tonight. But I think tonight on the menu for me and Elizabeth, we are going to check out that RVD documentary from A&E last night. And then tomorrow night on Vice is the final episode of Who Killed WCW. So we will be talking about that later on in the week. Oh yeah, Rarely Even. Thank you for the 5 to tell me that Breaking Bad was brilliant. I'm not denying its brilliancy. That type of show is not for me. Did not like it. Still have a bitter attitude about it. And any show like that, I won't watch. I just won't. But that doesn't mean I say it's a bad show. I just mean it doesn't appeal to me. Exactly, Doug. I'm funny. Unlike wrestling, it just like wrestling, their characters, it's not real. I know that, but I still don't want to watch suffer. I don't know, I guess I just don't understand. Some they make movies that are just nothing but sad and tragic. What's entertaining about putting yourself through those emotions? I don't understand. I just don't. So any movie that's just super dark or super depressing, or that'll make you cry throughout the whole thing, I don't want to do that to myself. I'll just watch Billy Madison. Thank you. It gives you an idea of my music, my movie taste. But anyway, one day we'll do Greg's favorite movie streams. But right now, I got to get out of here. It's time for me to eat some dinner and chill out. And I want to thank you guys for being here. You'll probably see some content hit the channel tomorrow or Wednesday. Also, I got to figure out a way to bring you guys predictions. That'll probably be on Saturday's podcast. So we're not going to do a standalone video for Forbidden Door predictions. No reason to. Unless I pre-record one and chuck it at you, I might. Otherwise, we will cover all of that on the podcast on Saturday, and I'm still not even sure if that's going to be a nighttime or daytime one yet. So stay tuned. It's going to be a busy week on the channel. 5 more from Rarely Even to say Breaking Bad had comedy in it. Yes, it did. I chuckled a few times. It didn't have enough comedy to outweigh how much I hated everybody else. Hated Hank. I hated Walter. I hated him. Hated Jesse. I hated all of them. There was not one redeemable character. They could all suck it, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, maybe one day I'll do a video just ranting about how bad I hate Breaking Bad. Thank you so much for being here, Nate Dogg. Peace out, new one, all y'all. Thank you for being here, as always, on Monday. It's a blast. I will be catching you real soon. Have a great